Welcome back everyone to the Hello World Guide. This is another episode of the Raycaster series, and in this video we are going to add in our game a kind of distinction between when we are in the editing mode and when we are in the game mode, and only add certain game related characteristics or certain game related mechanics. Of course, actually running the game only when we are in the game mode, and when we are in editing mode we should be able to view the 3D view. We should be able to see the world in 3D as well as of course the 2D view, but we shouldn't be able to have everything updating in real time and stuff, because that shouldn't be available, and we might also want to have some debug highlights in that case. So what I am gonna do is, well, I already done this, so I'm going to open up game here, and inside of game.h you can see now the update and the render functions both take a boolean called game mode, and this actually represents whether we are actually in a game mode or not. And if this boolean is true, then that means that we are in game mode, and that means that we are supposed to execute all of the game related logic. So I'm going to go ahead and go under game.cpp, and in here you can see that first things first, we have got a thinker here, and we will understand these in a second, but first let's go here. You can see that if we have got the game mode inside of update, we only update the player and everything. Well, we update the player regardless of whether game mode or not, but we only update the other things if it is game mode. And you might be wondering what this thinker and stuff is. We will understand that in a second. And the other thing is that in the render function, if we are in game mode, then we want to only then we allow the 2D stuff to be drawn. So you can see that in here, if we are the thing that we are drawing is not player and we are not in the game mode, then we just skip drawing that thing. And the reason we do that is because while most games would allow you to have a 2D map, classic raycasting shooters and Doom even, they had maps, but they did not show the things or the enemies on it. Of course, only the level geometry was shown, so anything apart from the player will not be shown on the map. However, it will be shown if we are not in game mode, because then we should be able to see this. And when we are drawing the render view, we also have a new argument for render called draw debug. Now let's go ahead and open up render.h and take a look at that. And this basically represents whether we want to draw the debug lines of the collisions of things or not. And we just invert game mode. So if we are in game mode, we are not going to draw it, and if we are not in game mode, then we are going to draw it. So if you have render.cpp, what you can see is that we create the debug columns and stuff, and if the debug value is true, then we draw the debug columns, otherwise we do not. And that's pretty much all. And I'm gonna close this and close this as well. And you can see that here we have got, that's pretty much all of the things. And now let's go ahead and open up thing.h to kind of understand how the thinker mechanism works. So the thing is that our things are currently just empty and sprites, static sprites in the scene. But what we want to do is we want to make it so that our things actually have some functionalities attached to them. So for that we are going to use this thinker. So each thing is going to have a shared pointer of thinker, which may be null if needed, and this shared pointer of thinker will represent what the thing is actually supposed to do. So in here we have got thinker, which is essentially just a class with actually an abstract class with a pure virtual function called update, which takes a thing, a map, and delta time. And the reason that this is a class, we could just use a function, but with the std function like we do in function thinker, which actually inherits from this class. But the reason I did this is because in case you want to actually have like complex AI mechanisms, then it will need a lot of data, and it would be better to just store that in a class instead of making lambda functions and having a bunch of complicated stuff there. But if you want to just code together a very simple behavior, we have made this utility class here called function thinker, which essentially is just a thinker which can store an std function, and this will allow us to use like lambdas for just adding some quick functionalities to objects, and this will be really useful. And the thing.h just stores this thinker, and what we do is we inside of the game update function, we go ahead and if the game mode is true, which means that we are in the game mode, which we are running the game, then we go over each of the things, and then if the thinker of that thing is valid, then we just update that thinker with the appropriate arguments. And another thing is that the player now takes another argument. So when drawing the player, we have to take another boolean which is called ghost mode. Now the thing is, in editing mode, the player should be allowed to just go through walls and stuff, because when you are editing a map and you're going through a 3D view, you want to get from one place to another as quick as possible. You don't really care about any other thing. You don't want wall collisions. So for that, we have got a boolean here called ghost mode, and if this is true, then the player will essentially just walk through everything, and we just invert game mode and pass it to the player. And the way this works is that it's very simple. So after calculating the move vector, if we are in ghost mode, then we just increment or increase the thing's position by the move amount, and do it directly. Otherwise, we use the thing move function, and this is the function that actually checks for collision. So this disables collision if we are not in ghost mode. So that's pretty cool. And yeah, that's pretty much all that we have got here. And another thing is that inside of my game like constructor, we assign a function thinker here real quick, and all this does is that it moves the thing by 1 on the positive x-axis. And the reason we add that is we just use function thinker here and a shared pointer of that. And this, you can see, is very useful if you just want to add a small behavior and just add this to test out the stuff. Now finally, I'm going to open up main.cpp. Let me close this and this, and also this. Let's close that, and I'm going to open up main.cpp, and in here we have basically got another boolean here for the game mode. And what we do with this is that if the user press the tile key, then we just set the game mode to not game mode. And by the way, if we are in the game mode, then we always set the state to be game, because actually this state isn't really appropriate. We should kind of rename this from game to like 3D view. But anyways, you can see that we change the state to game, and once we change it to game, that means that if we are in the game mode, then obviously we can't open the editor. However, we can open the editor when we are in the editing mode, and we can also view the actual game view when in the editing mode. We can view the 3D world. And here you can see we just use the game mode when updating and rendering the game. And yeah, that's pretty much all. So I'm going to go ahead and go here and run make, and what you should be able to see is that everything works, hopefully. So you can see that it compiles, and you can see that currently we are in the editing mode, and by default you can see we can basically move through all of the walls. There is no collision, and we can see the debug columns on this, and this thing that is supposed to move is not moving. Now if I press the tile key, you can see that this actually starts moving, and you can see there is no collision detection really, but it does start moving. It collides with the wall, and the other thing is that now the collisions, the collision hints, the boxes, ABBs that we were drawing in 3D view have now disappeared, and I can go back to editing mode, and now I can open up the editor. However, if I am in the editor and I change to the game view, I automatically switch to the actual game view. And in the game view, you can see we cannot see any 2D stuff apart from the player, and if I actually change, then you can see we can see that. And yeah, that pretty much means that it is working correctly. Now the problem is, of course, that this is not colliding with the player. The reason is that we need to update the block map whenever we move a thing. That's something that we'll leave for the next video. So the next video is going to be a fun one in which we are going to implement like actual dynamic moving things with collision. So stay tuned for that. Make sure to like and subscribe as well, and share this video with other people, and I'll see you in the next one, and bye.